All right, John. So thank you so much for that amazing tour. I did learn so much stuff about your
welcome.
operation and just raising grass-fed beef in general. So thank you so much for letting me come out. And
You're welcome.
yeah,
Glad you enjoyed it. Yeah.
yeah, it's a blast.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to kind of find out a little bit more about your story and how you got started in this. And did you have like a mentor starting out, or how did you get interested in raising beef to begin with?
Initial interest started with my grandpa back in the Midwest in the Ozarks of Arkansas, where he believed in having a little bit of everything on the ranch for every purpose. So we had spot for trees and ground that we had deer and we had other wildlife there. Then we had grazing pasture and another area that we had for farming, raising our own vegetables and so forth and so on. But back there, it was something that I picked up on from him on the importance of more of a balance on the place and it being productive in all forms of systems that were there. Ecosystem, we didn't talk back that way, and all the fancy words back then, but that's actually what was happening.
Interesting. So the recognition of nature and that there needs to be a balance to the ecosystem and having all forms of life there.
Yeah, everything going together, working together, and as much as possible. And that's when I was 15. But it initiated my interest in livestock production, large livestock production, cattle, sheep, pigs, and horses. And so I went to Cal Poly, got my degree in animal science. And Cal Poly was, of course, a hands-on program. I was able to live on campus at their horse unit and trade for room and board. And I worked my way through college, being on their farm crew.
That's
and
really cool. You can't do that anymore.
No. Yeah, but it was, that's how I got through college. And I had stocker programs and cattle programs, cow-calf programs that we were able to partake in and receive income from. So that helped. At the same time, I had hands-on experience. So that was very practical for any type of future ranch management, I felt. And going from there, it actually was. So
Nice. So then what did you do after college?
after college, well, I was in the Sierras, and my roommate at Cal Poly, his father owned a pack station up in the Sierras on the east side, and so we'd go up there during the summers and we'd pack, and there was no place to spend your money, so I'd come back with a pocket full of money at the end of summer. And this last summer, I packed through, after I graduated, I packed through the season and went through the hunting season, and then I hung around and started helping guys gather in the mountains in the Sierras to bring their cattle down in the fall. Everybody had to be out of the mountains by October 1st. Cattle, pack stations, horses, everything had to be out per the Forest Service permits. So I ended up landing a job with a cow-calf operation, a third-generation rancher who was a big part in getting me started in the cattle industry as far as understanding how livestock worked, being open to somebody that was offering new ideas. He was a good person, a good man, and still feel that way today. He's done a lot for the industry.
So now I kind of want to switch gears and I guess ask you something more about the beef industry and maybe some of the political repercussions of it all. I know right now there's a big movement to get labeling for beef that is actually grown and slaughtered here in the U.S. because I know there's foreign meat coming in and they're processing the meat here. When they process it here, they're allowed to put the USDA stamp. Is that correct? Or?
Yeah, it's the USDA, processed in the USA stamp on it, yes.
So, but then the consumer thinks, oh, it has the USDA thing on it, so it must have been grown here in the United States, but in actuality, some of this meat is not.
That's correct, yeah. It's been imported and just packaged here in the U.S. And so what's happening is there's a awakening happening and an awareness that's actually coming into play for the country of origin labeling to have that situation corrected. And I think what's happening is the consumer is feeling that they weren't aware of this and that they were buying either U.S. beef or they felt they were misled by the labeling. So it's important to just correct the labeling to, if people want to buy a product that was made in the U.S., then it needs to be labeled as such. If it was coming from Africa, Brazil, or Argentina, it needs to be labeled as such. And there is a need for less expensive beef in our society. Not everybody can afford, even natural beef. But the reality is that we need to provide, food for everybody. And but I have to, having said that, I think it's important to understand and know where your food comes from, and that process needs to be upfront to the consumer and made clear. And that's not, and that's the ramifications right now of that understanding are pretty, after the virus has, affected so many different industries. This is coming into light with our own food chain and our food supply system. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've seen some news articles out there that there's a possible meat shortage on the rise now because demand dropped because people aren't going out to restaurants, and for whatever reason the meat processors don't have enough employees to process the meat. So there's all these animals on the field that need to be processed, but now they can't process them all, so they're eliminating them. Or
Yeah,
can you talk? Is that true, or do you know anything about it?
You see stuff on YouTube and Facebook. I'm not sure what's fact or what's fiction.
Yeah.
In the early 1900s, the government did have to, they did. There was such an oversupply of animals that they did do some, euthanasia on the ranches and buried the livestock on the ranches, and the rancher was paid for that product. That's not the case now. What's happening is we have this is pretty complex, but the reality is there's not really a beef shortage. There's animals in feedlots that need to be processed. There's pigs and chickens that are ready to harvest, but we have more of a processing plant shortage. Bottleneck. Shortage. We've only got 4 big players, which is a highly efficient, the least expensive way to run something on one end. On the other end, when that system is broken, we're in a bad way. So the food supply chain is broken. So like several people were not aware of the fact that you can buy local or direct from a rancher, but you have to buy the animal and then have the animal processed or harvested. You can or buy a share of the animal, one of the two, but that is what you can do legally at this point. But the reality is, I think what we need is the process has actually changed the consumer's mind what they want. So that's, they are saying, well, no, I don't want beef from Brazil. I do want to support our local rancher.
What do you think is the solution to this, the processor bottleneck, and where should we go?
Well, yeah, I think maybe we didn't, it's on the camera already or not, but we did talk briefly about the ability for the consumer to buy directly from a rancher that is providing the product, and by buying the animal and then having it processed. So those are, or a share of the animal. So that is available to a local consumer that's out there. I think one of the biggest solutions right now is the possibility of mobile processing units and the possibility of the USDA helping to sponsor some of those. Those have been they've dipped their toes in the water on it, but I don't know if it was the right time. and that was something that is, this could be the time for that to come back. And the issue will have to be, you know, a USDA inspector will have to be at each one of the units when they do, you know, harvest, or process the whatever animal they're doing. So I think more processing plants need to be opened. The issue is, and always has been, that the smaller processing plants were just unable to really stay busy enough to really even stay in business. And that's what created the consolidation of everything in the first place. So, because they live or die based on the number of animals coming through their particular processing plant. So I don't really know what the answers are. I really think, you know, we do need large plants still to process a lot of livestock and to, you know, for our food supply chain, to keep that going. But I think there's going to be more of a demand for a local product.
I hope so.
That is, you know, coming as through this awareness of where our food is coming from and how our food is handled. I think there's going to be much more of a demand for somebody that they know locally that's raising something healthy, that they can go and talk to and see, and know that the product is going to be something really good and healthy. So that is what I see is happening here right now. I think that transition is actually happening right now during this crisis, and I don't think it's gonna go away after the crisis is over.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I'm seeing the same kind of thing happening in the vegetable world too. Like different of my farmers friends, they're just completely sold out. They can't grow enough food now.
Right.
And it's kind of one of the blessings of this whole thing happening, is kind of waking people up. Like, oh my gosh, like our whole system's really fragile, and I need to know somebody who grows my food and gets them thinking about the healthiness of their food too. So
exactly. Yeah.
there are some definitely good things coming out of all this. And hopefully pushing people to change the food system more. So this is great.
I agree.
So, but yeah, thank you for sitting down with me and talking about all this stuff and showing me around the farm. It was fantastic.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. And if people want to find out more about your business or your beef, do you have a website or Facebook?
We are getting our website developed. We have our Facebook is 4J Horse and Livestock, and you can reach us on there if you're interested in anything local here.